In the last video, I taught you how to solve absolute value equations by hand. This video is all about finding the solutions to an absolute value equation by using just Desmos. So you don't have to do any work by hand except for getting everything in the equation on one side. So to make this work, if we're looking at number 1 on this sheet, we're going to subtract 18. Now if I'm moving it over, it's not going to go inside the bars because the bars have already been established. So it's just going to go on the outside, minus 18. And then since I subtracted 18, nothing is left on this side. So I'm going to put a 0. So to use Desmos to solve absolute value equations, we have to have the equation set equal to 0. And then you're only going to type in what's on this side of the equation. Okay? So you don't have to type in the equals 0. So looking at Desmos, I'm just going to come over here, type in my absolute value bars. And notice that I crossed the x-axis in 2 places, okay? So that's where my equation would equal 0. And that's at x equals negative 6 and x equals positive 6. Okay. You may also see your solutions written in curly brackets, negative 6, comma 6. So either way, you can list them out to x equals, okay, circle those, or you can write your 2 answers in the curly brackets. Don't use parentheses because we would confuse that with interval notation or with an ordered pair. All right, let's skip down to number 5 on these notes. So 2x minus 1 in absolute value bars, and then equals 5. So the only thing I need to do is subtract 5. Get everything on one side, have this set equal to 0. Again, I'm only typing in this left-hand side. So, absolute value bar, let me just go ahead and erase all that. 2x minus 5, or minus 1, and then a minus 5. Again, if you look here, you can zoom in and see that we have 2 solutions. The y-axis does not matter. Our solutions are coming from where we cross the x-axis, so where y is 0. And of course you can see in these 2 ordered pairs y is 0. So my answers are negative 2 and 3. So x equals negative 2, x equals 3. Okay? You don't have to check your solutions here because if they show up on the graph, then of course they are solutions. And then if you want to write it in the curly brackets. The order really doesn't matter, just have both answers with a comma in between enclosed by curly brackets. Now looking at number 7 on this worksheet, notice that we have a w now instead of x. Desmos does not like variables that are not x. So what we're going to do is simply everywhere we see that variable, we're going to replace it with an x and do the same thing. So 4x plus 3, I have minus 2. I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 5 over. So there's 2 ways you could type this into Desmos. You're going to get the same answer either way. You could leave that minus 2 and just put a minus 5 on the end. Okay, so I'll show you how that looks. 4x plus 3 minus 2 and then minus 5. We got 2 solutions. But to prove to you, I'm going to also show you another way that we could write this. So we could also make this a minus 2. If I subtract 5, I'm going to have minus 7, right? So I could go ahead and combine those like terms on the outside. And I'm just going to show you that the graph should be exactly the same. Okay, and we see that red overlaps with the black on Desmos. The same answers, so negative 2.5 and positive 1. And I need to change back to W now. Okay, or I can put that in curly brackets. And those are your solutions for number 7. Going to the back of the sheet. We're going to look at a couple more examples. So number 9. I'm just going to move over this 9x and this minus 6. So the 9x will become negative, the 6 will become positive when I move everything over. Just tack it on after the absolute value bar. So minus 9x plus 6 equals 0. We're going to type in that left-hand side of Desmos. Minus 9x plus 6. Okay, and if I zoom out, notice that this doesn't look like our traditional V-shaped absolute value. And if you can scroll left and right, you will see we only have one solution where we cross, and that's at positive 7. So my answer here is just x equals 7. Or if you wanted to use the curly bracket notation, you would just put a 7 inside the brackets. All right, 2 more. 11, again, the p's, we're going to make x's for Desmos. And then I'm going to make this a minus 2x, set it equal to 0. Type this in, so I'm just going to change what I already have here. 5x plus 3. And then minus 4 and minus 2x. And if we zoom in here, we see 2 solutions, one at -1 and one at 0.3 repeating. I'm going to make that back to a p again. So p equals -1, p equals 0.333. Well, by this point in our math careers, we should know that 0.3 repeating is the same thing as 1/3. And if you want to verify that, you could type it into Desmos here. 1 divided by 3 is 0.3 repeating. All right, so you can leave it as the 2 separate answers or your curly brackets. And then last one for our video, you'll get to do the rest as your assignment to check your understanding. We're going to type this into Desmos as 3/4 8x minus 12 in the bars. Now all of this is lumped together. I could distribute this 6 to parentheses, okay? Or I could just leave it all lumped together and make this a minus 6 parentheses t minus 1, okay? Or I'm going to make it an x in this case. I don't have to change the signs inside the parentheses because that -6, if I were to solve this by hand, would distribute into the parentheses, which takes care of that. So we'll type this in. X minus 12 minus 6, and then x minus 1. And then I'll look at my graph to see I'm only going to have one solution, and that's at x equals 1.25. Actually, t equals 1.25. Now let's say you want to write that as a fraction instead. I'm just going to show you this real quick. If you have 1.25, if you want to change that into a fraction on Desmos, you're just going to click this little button over to the left. That looks like a fraction symbol, and it will automatically convert it to an improper fraction for you. So you could write that as 1.25 or 5/4.